First of all, I'll say timing is the biggest challenge of any technician, okay? Because we can tell you what is most likely to happen, but exactly when it can be a little bit of a challenge, except I think your timing is probably pretty good because we have those interest rate benchmark transitions that are supposed to take place by June 30th of 2023. And I think that there is probably going to be some kind of major crisis before that because I don't think they can make the transition at all. And so they're going to have to cover up that blunder. And consequently, I do also think that central banks are going to come out and use the only tool at this point that they have, which is just to print that. But the confidence of the public, which is the only thing that's holding this game together. I think the confidence of the public is really low right now, and that will be it. Once they do that, and the public sees even more rapid inflation, that's going to be it. So I think your timing is probably pretty good because they have to work off and get rid of these massive amounts of unpayable debt. It'll take a while to work through that debt. And then when you're talking about gold, history has proven over and over and over and over again that there has to be, once all confidence is lost, there has to be a component of gold that's put into the currency so that people start to trust it again and use it. I mean, I think the most important thing is to hold it and own it and do it as quickly as you can, because people always think that all these options will be available whenever they are ready. And that's just not the way it works. We get a big black swan event. I mean, look what happened in 2020, right? And people rushed into gold and silver. And a lot of the products that were available prior to that are still not available today. And the premiums were ginormous. And I'll just say one other little thing about the derivatives. If they're talking about 80 trillion or 120 trillion or whatever number they're talking about, you need to understand that that is nominal, which means that these derivatives, the foreign exchange swaps, are just one form, but there's a gazillion of them. They're all about leverage. And what the BIS admits, the IMF admits, the Federal Reserve, all the central banks admit, they all admit that no one really knows the true amount that is at risk, because they use all of these funny accounting tricks to make things look one way, when in reality, that's what's going to bring the whole system down. So what do I want? Do I want intangibles that can VOOP? And who are you going to complain? Stock market drops 20,000 points. Who are you going to complain to, right? There's nobody that you can talk to. Everything we do is with the physical metal itself. And I personally have been studying. So hold it, own it. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. I don't care what your perception is. But also we execute a strategy that's based upon the studies that I've done since 1987 on currency life cycles. And I find it really interesting because I do meet a lot of people, very smart people. And it's still hard because of that normalcy bias to imagine that this currency that we're used to could actually go away when it has many times. So the strategy is just based on repeatable patterns. It's actually not rocket science, but if something's happened over 4,800 times, 100% of the time, and we're doing the same thing, I'm guessing we're going to get the same kind of result. That's the best shot. I don't think this time is different. A lot of people don't understand what counterparty risk is, but it's really simple. If you and I make an agreement, if you don't hold up your end or I don't hold up my end, then that's counterparty risk. Whereas with gold, there is no counterparty risk because you hold it and own it. It's not a contract. It's a tangible asset that also has the broadest base of buyer. So I believe that's what they're talking about when he's saying that, because counterparty, everything else is counterparty risk.
Yeah.
Currencies are all based on the full faith and credit of the government. That's a counterparty risk. What about, well, we see what just happened with FTX, right? And the cryptocurrency debacle that's still continuing to play out, and it's like dominoes falling. But you don't have that with gold. You don't have that at all with gold, because you hold it, it's in my possession, and it's in, for all intents and purposes, even though you can see it right here, it disappears. And we've just seen that central banks have bought more gold this third quarter alone in 2022 than they ever have in history. Gee, why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's in, so a vault can be a vault that you own, or I own my own vault. And again, you know, gold held at home runs no political risk because they can't see it, right? Even though it's real and it's tangible, once it's out of the system, it is invisible to them. And what the central banks are really attempting to do with CBDCs is make absolutely everything you do visible and controllable by them. But this isn't. And that's why they're accumulating it, because they want to stay in power, but they're not going to tell you about it. They're going to do what they can by pushing down the price so that you think, oh, well, gold isn't really, even though it really did outperform pretty much everything last year. But still, why would you want it? No, you don't want it. So, but yeah, gold held at home, it's invisible to them. They can't control it. They can only control through perception management how you think about it. But once you know the truth, they've lost you, like they've lost me. They can say anything you want. I know the truth, and I hold it in my vault. This in my possession with complete demand globally in every single sector of the market. Oh yeah, that's very important. Runs no counterparty risk, runs no political risk, protects me from inflation. And guess what? Governments, central banks, disappeared. Can't see it, gone.
What else do you need? Exactly.
Well, you need food, water, energy, security, barterability, which is silver, wealth preservation, which is gold, community, which is what we're doing, and shelter. Those are the things that you need